If you've been affected by the recent outage of MyCloud Home and the other suite of products like this one, MyCloud Home Duo, or other MyCloud devices, I guess that are RAID systems, then I'm hoping this can provide some stopgap information for you between now and whenever Western Digital puts out some additional information or gets the MyCloud system working again. Quickly describe the issue we had is we have this system, which is a RAID NAS drive, which means it's accessible over the network, and we were using this to store business files that were relevant for day-to-day operations. And we lost access because the authentication server for the Western Digital MyCloud system is still offline due to the recent hack that happened, I think, a few days ago. Technically, there's nothing really preventing you from getting to your files other than the fact that it's all supposed to be done through this, network portal because it's a network solution. So it's sort of a byproduct of the hack that because that site went down, now everyone's locked out of their drives. There are a few caveats. If you had local access enabled for your drive, you can either get to it through an SSH program, or you might be able to just log in directly, and I'll give you just a quick version of that. And this isn't related to the NAS solution, but if you go to your Windows thing and type in CMD, just the letters CMD, if you type that into search, you'll get, see if it shows up, there it is, command prompt. Pull that up and then run ARP space -A. So sorry, forgot to switch. So you go here, ARP, oops, please, there, ARP, don't know what's happening, not ARP, CMD. Okay, pull up command prompt, go here, type in ARP space -A. This will give you all of the internet, the IP addresses on your local network. This is what I did. You don't have to do this. Then what I did is I unplugged this system, okay, either from the internet or from power, either one. Run it again, and then you'll see that there's one missing. So the one missing is the correct IP address. Now again, there's lots of other ways to do this, and there are probably better ways. This is just a little hack that I did. Okay, so then once you know which address it is, and for us it's 64 is the correct one. But 64 is currently offline because I don't have it plugged in. So then you go here to a browser. Okay, and you're going to type in 192.168.168.1.64. That's the one that we had. It could be any number of things. It could be 10.1. something. Could be anything. So go there, and what that does is it brings you to your home login page. It will prompt you. Again, mine's not connected. It's using this cache thing. So this is what it should pull up, and it'll say like log in with your Western Digital account. You can't do that because their Western Digital sign-in is offline. But you can click that local right here, sign in with local password. Again, sorry, it's just I was pulling up cache data. I'm surprised I even got that far. But you can do the local login and then see if you can log in if you had those things set up. We did not, so we didn't have access. There is another caveat that if you go to your network here, then you have your drive connected, okay, you can still click on it and go to your public folder. I don't have anything to show you other than, I guess now that it won't work there. You would double click on the My Cloud drive, and then you could see the public folder, and you can see Time Machine backup folder. And this depends probably on which product you have, but you might be able to have a public folder there. So if you have files there, then great, you can still access them. It's probably not all your files though, and it's none of our files, so it's probably not helpful. Okay, failing that, if you happen to set up your SSH access, I'm going to assume you know how to get to it. I will probably link something to get to that. I think you just put in the IP address as the server, and then the host, and then the username is going to be root, ROOT, and the password by default is welcome with a 0 instead of an O. That's how you would log in, and it's port 22 for SSH. So that should work if you have that set up. You probably didn't, because we didn't either, because it's not how you're normally accessing your files. So if you're one of the probably millions of customers that are suffering from this outage, I'm hoping this can give you some information. Okay, we're going to close this for now because we don't really need that. Here comes the not fun part. You're going to have to do some dirty work. To do this, I'll also link, I'll note that early on, I will link you to let me go full screen real quick. I will link you to a website that has recovery data or the ability to recover files from a RAID array, which is what we're dealing with, that does work. It costs like $90. If you don't want to pay that, following these steps should help. I'm also not warranting any of this. If you do this wrong, lose all your files, super sorry, but also can't help you. It's just to give you some information for what we did. So yeah, no warranties on that. If you have a MyCloud device that is not a RAID array, so it's not two drives that are RAIDed together, it's just a single drive, or it's not set up in a RAID array, it is quite possible that all you need to do is just this first step and you'll have access to all your data. So hopefully that's the case for you. It is possible that they are using a Linux storage solution or storage file type for the drive as well, because that's just maybe how they're using their network server, and I'd say that's a fair chance that that's likely. If that's the case, then some of the other steps I have in this will hopefully help you. Okay, so regardless, you're going to need to get access to your drives. So you need to come out of your enclosure. For this one, there's some clips, and you press in order to get them out. This was actually very tricky, so you might need an extra set of hands, or a screwdriver, or maybe it's easy for you. And then if you're really angry at it, then you can just break it. Just don't be too rough, or you might damage your drives. Okay, once that's out, then you'll be facing this tall array. It's sitting over there, plugged in, of components. But you're going to have if it's a RAID array, you're going to have two drives that are inside of this unit, like this. Okay, and then you're going to need to get those out. And in this system, there were these two sleds with these clips. So just pull them out and extract the drives. You need to desled them. For these are just clip-on. So you just flex them in order for these little pins to come out of the slots in the hard drive, and you can get the hard drives out. They might be held in with screws on different models. I'm not sure, in which case you can use a screwdriver. You don't have to desled them if they'll fit in your computer, or if you're just connecting a cable to them loose, that's fine. You don't need to desled them, but we did. So let me show you what I have set up over here. Let me turn on the flashlight so you can see. So the next part of this is that you're going to need to have access to for the steps that I'm giving you, a Windows desktop computer where you can access the internal components. So any gaming computer would probably work. Most desktop computers will probably work. An all-in-one computer probably won't work, but you could use different adapters to get the same effect. So you could look up a SATA adapter, S-A-T-A, if you need to. Most computers are going to come with the SATA ports right here. Actually, it's this way. Sorry. You're going to need to plug in both of the hard drives via a SATA connection, or you're going to need to get an adapter or something. This computer has 2 SLED ports for those drives to fit into. The SLEDs didn't fit because it's a different SLED system, but if yours worked, then great. They don't need to go into SLED slots. Any SATA connection is fine. They will both need to have SATA power, which is going to look like this. Excuse me. It's going to look like that. You're going to plug those into each of the computers, and then you're going to plug a data port. I think these. Let me switch this around. Yeah, that's correct. So you're going to need to connect a data cable to these drives, which is what this is. So you're going to need power and data to each of the drives plugged into your computer, and then we can proceed. When you first connect the drives, this is just a note on the savvy side, because I really want just anyone to be able to do this, because I know so many people are affected by it right now. If you connect the drives and you get any pop-up from Windows saying, we need to initialize these disks have been damaged, you need to repair them, you need to reformat them, any notification from Windows to that effect, make sure you cancel it. Do not click OK, because proceeding in any of that event might damage or destroy the data on those drives. So that's really important. I'll try to edit that in earlier. I do want to do YouTube videos long term, but this is a bit of an impromptu thing, and I don't really have my setup. I just want to get this out of here as soon as possible. So I'm sorry for the kind of rambly nature of things and the fact it's not really edited very well. Once that's done, then the following steps are going to be for Windows, but you could do this for anything. What we're going to need to do is get to a Linux environment, because these hard drives are formatted for Linux, and they are also using a Linux RAID array, so we're going to be able to rebuild it that way. I don't know that all of the Western Digital NAS products or the MyCloud products are in this particular configuration. I would assume that most are, and probably all of the new, like MyCloud OS 5 or 5 OS or whatever, they probably all have this same setup. But again, your mileage may vary on this, so hopefully this is helpful. Okay, next step, we're going to need to get some extra tools. So I will link you to an article and a video that I've followed for this part. It's unrelated to this exact system, but it's going to be this video, these commands. So I'll link both of these in the description. We're going to copy this first one because we need to get the list of drives that we have. So you're going to type first into your search bar, whether that's through Windows search or just this, if you have it broken out, PowerShell. Going to need PowerShell. Okay, and then you're going to need to run it as administrator. So right click, run as administrator. Yes. Okay, and then you're gonna I think you can paste with right click. I'm not super familiar with PowerShell. It's not what I normally use. So anyway, so you can do that. Now we're going to get the physical drives and for drive paths for each of the hard drives that are connected to your computer. What we're going to need to do though is figure out which one of these is the correct 2 drives. Now I'm going to guess that this is going to be fairly simple for you to figure out, because it's likely that you're going to have other models of drives installed in your computer, and you're not going to have duplicates here. But so the simplest thing to do basically is identify 2 of the exact same drives. Okay, so these 2 are exactly the same. Those are the 2 drives, and the reason is that they use the same 2 drives whenever it's in an array like this, because of sourcing and all stuff like that. If for some reason you don't have the same 2 drives, I would make a note of the model number that are on the drives before you plug them into your computer, if by plugging them in they become inaccessible. And then you're going to try to match those models to what you have in this list. If you have another hard drive in your computer that matches these models, making it sort of ambiguous as to which one's correct, he has some additional steps for you to run. There was a partition tool. I don't remember what he called it. Anyway, I'll leave it to that video if it's relevant to you. He talks about how to install that partition manager, and you can figure out which drive is the correct one. I think for most of you, it's going to be those two. So, thing to note is that it's // physical drive 2 and 3 for me that are the two RAID drives. Okay, so we need to get those links to the next path here. So the next thing is that you're going to paste, let me copy from here. You're going to paste this command, WSL mount this path, because this is going to be part of the Linux operation. Now, I would assume for most of you, for me as well, didn't have WSL installed, didn't have Ubuntu installed on this computer. So if by doing this, if you've never opened PowerShell before, this is what you're going to probably have to do. Just do WSL just to check. For me, I have it, so it's going to pull up that environment. I actually don't know how to close it. Again, PowerShell is not my thing. I'm normally a Mac user, honestly. So it's not my cup of tea. Okay, let's go back. So you're probably going to get something like, you don't have this installed, you need to install it. So you're going to need WSL, and I believe it's -- install, I believe is what it is. It should say, you should get an error message that makes it clear what you need to type, and then that will download and install a Linux environment so that you can use it through PowerShell. That will take some time, and then I believe you're going to have to it's going to restart your computer, or you're going to have to restart your computer, and then it will finish the installation, which will take another few minutes, and then once that's done, you can continue. So I'm going to now skip to as if you're continuing. So you do WSL, and then per this article, and then you do -- mount, and then you're going to do the disk path, which we verified before, the disk path. Let me pull it up here just so we have it. No, not that one, excuse me. Okay, so this is the command, WSL -- mount, and then you're going to type in the physical address dot and then / physical drive 2. I don't want to do all that because I've already done it. That's fine. I'll do it again. I think I've restarted anyway, so it shouldn't matter. I don't know if that copied and pasted. It did. Okay. So I think you highlight what you want to copy in PowerShell, right-click to copy it, and then right-click it again to paste it. I believe that's the correct. WSL space -- mount space, then the physical drive path, then space -- bare. Okay. You're going to need this to do this as well for the other one. Okay. And if you forget to do the second one, you can do this again here while we're actually in the WSL environment, and that's fine. Okay. So now we're going to pull up WSL. Okay, so now that we're here, now we're talking to the Linux side of things, but the process we just did mounted those two physical drives to the Linux environment so that we can play around with them in Linux. So now we do the ls-blk. This will list the drives that Linux has access to. Okay, and it does have access to your normal drives, which is going to be important for the recovering of data later. Okay, so this part is where it would be perhaps relevant to know which ones you had before. So maybe it would be helpful for you to actually, instead of mounting these two physical drives, type WSL after you've finished installing Linux, run ls-blk to list the drives, record those, then pull up a second PowerShell terminal, or just, yeah, I guess that would be correct. Okay, like this. And then go ahead and do this mount command, okay, over here. And then rerun ls-blk here in your Linux environment. And that way you know which drives you just mounted, because that's going to be relevant. So in this case, it's SDC and SDD are the two drives that were connected that are from the RAID array. And if this is seeming just like super over your head and you're like really nervous, I am trying to outline it as step by step as possible. You shouldn't have to do like you shouldn't have to be technically savvy really to follow these steps, I'm hoping. Uh, so hopefully you're not getting too intimidated. There's not too many more steps though, honestly. Okay, we're here now, so we know which drives those are. Now we're going to divert from this article, and now we're going to move on to some other steps. So the first one is that we're going to need to install. You need to do. Let me see if it has my old commands. It does. Okay, let's do this. We'll just scroll through these because this is how you do it. So do sudo apt-get update. Okay. This is on the Linux side of things, and it's going to let us install a package that we need to use for the RAID array. Now, if you are doing all this process with a single drive MyCloud unit that is not in a RAID array, you can actually go ahead and complete the article that I mentioned earlier, and that should for at least the video. Looking at this now, and yeah, maybe this would work. So I think what he did will work if you have a new enough version of Windows. If you don't, you can actually still mount it here in Linux, and you can just skip to the mounting stage of things. So if you're dealing with a non-RAID unit and and you think that you still need to use Linux to access it, so it's in an ext4 format, then I'll just alert you when we get to the step that you need to do next. So these steps you can skip. Okay, apt update. Then once that's done, do install mdadm. So you're going to run this command like this. I'm going to just not do that. And then once you do that, run the, what is it? This one. Install mdadm. That is it's a RAID package for hard drive stuff. Okay, then you're going to do, I don't think we actually need any of that. We're going to go to, so once you do that, sorry, I'm trying to get to the correct command here. Yeah, okay. It's this one. So it's sudo space mdadm space dash dash assemble space dash dash run space slash dev slash md0. Actually, you might have to create md0. Hold on. I'm sorry. Hold on. I think you need to create md0. No, I don't think you do. My apologies. Sorry, there's so many steps here. Okay. Again, sorry for the unpolished nature of this. I just did this. So let's just try to get this information out as soon as possible. Dash dash assemble space dash dash run space slash dev slash md0 space slash dev, and then it's going to be the drive name. So right here. These are from when I did this a second ago, so the letters have changed. So don't use my letters. It needs to be from your LSBLK result page to identify which ones are correct. It's also important to note you can't just do the root drive number. You need to have the partition number. So in each of these cases, and for any of these units that you're doing this for, it's going to be Alright, my headset died again. It's going to be the large partition that you're going to want to put in here. So I'm sorry for all the rambling. It's in this case, it's going to be SDC 2 because that's the one that's 1.8 terabytes. Each of the products are going to have different size drives in there, so this could be different. But the other one's only 2 gigabytes. That's way smaller, and that's not the correct partition. We want this one, this 1.8 one. So it's going to be SDC2 for this example. In your case, it might be SDA, SDB, SDC. It might not even be 2. It's probably always going to be the second one or third one, but again, I just don't know what your configuration is. It's going to be the big one. Then you need to get the other one. So then you're going to need to space/dev/sd and then whatever the right letter is, and then the correct partition. It should be the same for both drives because both drives are mirrors of one another. So that's another indicator. They both need to have the same number of partitions, and they both are going to have the partition in the same position as the other. So if it's 2 for the first one, it's going to be 2 for the second one. And then once you're done, you can run this. I'm going to go ahead and run it because I think it's fine. Okay. Did I mount those? I did. There's no super block provided for. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that my letters had changed. I just said that, and yet still. Okay. So then you should be getting this message. If you don't, you can ask any number of questions to Google and other people about what to do if you're getting an error here. Because this isn't really a comprehensive list, but if you follow these steps up to this point, this should work for you, assuming that your drives aren't damaged and your RAID array isn't damaged in any way. Okay. Yeah, that should be the case. If you want my best advice, I would tell you to go to chat.openai.com and then log in with a Google account, and then you can ask that AI chatbot what to do, because it's trained on things like this pretty thoroughly, and then you can tell it what error you're getting and then hopefully get a response. Again, your mileage might vary on that. I used it a minute ago because I wanted to get some information because I wasn't sure what the commands were, and it said the correct ones. It doesn't always get it correct, so you're getting into risky territory if you're starting to get errors at this point. But if you've been following what I've done and it's still working for you, you should be about to the end of the road here. Okay, once this is done, then we're going to need to create a mount point for this RAID array. So you're going to do, well, I guess what you can go ahead and do is do the lsblk again, and you're going to see this new RAID partition. So you see here it has MD0 now, and MD0, and it says RAID 1, and that's telling you that it successfully was able to use those 2 drives to form a RAID array that you'll be able to mount. It's not currently mounted though, so what we need to do now is create a directory for it to mount to. And you're going to type sudo mkdir, sudo space mkdir space /mnt/extra. It doesn't really matter what you put, but we're going to do that. Okay. That already exists because I've done this before, but it would make that. Now we're going to mount it. So I'm going to scroll back through what I did so I can mount it. Okay, so it's this one, sudo mount /dev/md0 space / I forgot the spaces, sorry, space /mnt/extra. That will take that new RAID array that it made or that it built or assembled, excuse me, and then it will mount it to that mount point. So we're going to do that. Okay, now we're going to list that directory just so we can see that we did it correctly, and that's going to be ls space then the mount point you made slash mnt slash extra. And that will give you all the files that are in that drive. Now, if you're seeing files here, especially this one called user storage, and this format's terrible because you can't read any of it because it's like all blue on blue. But if you're seeing user storage in particular, that's where your files are. So you'll know that you're at the eureka moment. If you're getting errors here, I don't know this to be the case, but I'm going to suggest that the issue might be when you try to do, or not here, but if you're getting issues up to this point, the issue might be that when you ran the sudo indatum space assemble space run with those two disks, they might need to be in the other order because the disk order, I believe, is relevant. I don't know that it's relevant for this command because that software might be sophisticated enough that it can choose the correct one. So if you were getting errors back then, I should have mentioned this earlier, but you can try to reverse the order. So you could do same command, but /dev and then the other disk number first and then the secondary disk number. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so now that we're at this point now, we want to copy this data because this data, you still can't see the drive. So if you pull up your Windows, your PC, you still can't see your drive connected here. And I wanted to copy it to this backup folder. So and it's on a secondary drive for me, but it doesn't matter. You can get to your other hard drives though in the Linux environment. So we're just going to copy the files from the RAID array to another spot in your computer. So I probably should have mentioned this a long time ago, but you're going to need to have enough space available on some other drive to get these files off. Okay, and then I suppose if you're into making your life a little tricky for yourself, you could go ahead and mount this drive and make it accessible to your Windows side, and then just use it as if it were just your RAID array that was normally connected. Okay. I'm going to suggest you don't do that just for the sake of data, not security, but to not risk destroying your files or messing up some part of this process multiple times, or just for ease. I'm going to say make a copy of it. If you're going to follow my suggestion, make a copy, follow the following steps. If you want to just use the drive, the array that we just made, then I'm going to assume you know how to do that, or if you can follow the rest of the video that I linked or talked about earlier. And I think the whole purpose of that was so that you could run a Linux drive on your PC. So you just proceed. I also forgot earlier to say if you have the one drive and you're not dealing with a RAID array, you're going to skip this mdatum stuff. You're not going to build that. All you need to do is mount it. So you're going to do the sudo make directory or mkdir mount extra, and then you're also going to do this mount command. So mount, but instead of it being dev md0, you're going to be dev slash then the disk number or the disk the disk letters. So like SDC2. Okay, that would be the partition for the single hard drive. So I should have mentioned that earlier, but if you've got the one drive, try that, see if that works. Then once you do that, you can go ahead and do the ls mount / extra, and then you can see your files if the single drive is even set up as a Linux drive. So I'm hoping I'm not leading lots of people astray here, but that would be the case. So the copying, though, in either case, whether you're using the RAID array like we are, or you have a single drive and this was helpful to get you to this stage, either way, copying the files is going to be the same. We're going to copy, oops. Where are we here? I don't know why it switched the format. Okay. We're going to copy, do this one, and it's important that we do a sudo command at the beginning because otherwise we're going to get a lot of permission warnings. But you do sudo space cp for copy space -r for recursive, meaning it's going to grab all the files in each of the directories it's copying, and then /mnt / extra, because that's the mount point we made for this RAID array, the RAID array, if you want to just get everything, you could just do slash and star the not star but asterisk, and it would grab everything in the just grab all the files that were on the RAID drive. All the files that are protected were in your user storage directory. So, and I should note as well, failsafe would be like the most compatible for all of their systems. It's probably just going to be, instead of writing it like this, to go ahead and put go ahead and put a star right here, or I'm sorry, the asterisk, because then you're just going to copy everything, and then whatever they're calling it, fine, it just won't matter. Because I think in other their products, it's possible that they've renamed that the directory would be named something different. Okay, but in our case, I want to just grab this user storage folder, and you could drill down a little bit more because technically that's going to have 2 folders in it, but that's good enough for me. Then space, and then we're going to say where to copy those files to. And in my case, I made a folder called backup that's in my D drive. It's just the root. In the root directory of the D drive, I made a folder called backup. So in order to copy it over here, great, we've done that, slash mnt slash D for the drive letter. If you're wanting to copy it to your regular, not regular, but your primary drive, it would be C, slash whatever folder you're going to copy it into. In my case, it would be slash backup. If you are going to copy this to your C drive, your primary drive, you don't have a secondary drive, we're going to need to go ahead and get a file directory that's going to be relevant. Otherwise, you're going to just copy it to your root of your C drive, which could be interesting. So you're going to go to this PC, C, users, your default user, and then in here, we want this file path. So you can click up here at the top, and you're going to get this. You're going to get this file path. I don't think we can copy it directly because it's formatted differently, but we can use that as a reference. So if we were to copy these things, here's what I'm going to do as an example. I'm going to not recursively copy. So I'm going to take that off just because I don't want to copy all the files again. But then I'm going to go ahead and put them in my primary drive folder. That way you can see what it would look like. So we're going to, but leave that -R in your case because you're going to need it. So we're going to do C for C drive, and then click here to see where it goes next. And then it's going to be slash users. So we'll put users with capital U, users, and then slash, even the slashes are different directions. So Cody space. I wonder what it's going to do for the space. That's probably not going to be good. Let me check what that is going to need. The double quotes should work. So let's try that. Let's try that. I think that should work. So in your case, if any of your directories have a space in them, let's put the whole directory in quotation marks. That will let it know that it's a string that it's a continuous path and that it doesn't, you're not trying to give it an extra command, because I think without this it's going to think that you're trying to copy it to the directory Cody, and then you want to give it an additional, you're giving an additional command of Stevens, and it's going to go, what are you talking about? Let's see if that works. Oh, I did that wrong. Or did I? I think you have to put a slash. So not specified, omitting directory. Okay, so that worked, but because I didn't have the recursive, I'm not sure it actually copied anything. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to do it recursively, and then I'll do it recursively, and then I'll just stop at midway. Okay, so there it is. It's copying now. I'm going to escape it because I don't want to do that. But that's how you would copy this to your primary drive. Once you have those files copied, you're done with the Linux part. So this is my D drive. Double click on this, and then I'm into the user storage drive, and now there's going to be two files. This JSON file, I don't think you might not even see it if you don't have all your files being listed, but it's not relevant. This trash folder would have anything that was in temporary trash to be deleted, so it might be empty, probably is. This one though, this authenticated user folder, this is where all your files are going to be. So I'll keep that. Yeah, keep that off. But anyway, that's where all your files are going to be. So you're done. You've made a copy of all your files. So if that's all you need, then you're good. Hopefully that helped people. If you're using a RAID array, then that's all you need to do. If you're using the single drive types that use the MyCloud system, I'm gonna guess that they're probably formatted for Linux, and so most of these steps are relevant for you. Just all of the MDADM ones are not. If you had errors along the way, I'd recommend the ChatGPT interface if you can use it. And then the video that I linked and showed, and the article I linked and showed, will help you through the PowerShell and Linux parts. And then if you had other errors along the way, kind of pause this, go Google those issues or ChatGPT them, and then kind of resume. So, but hopefully you've made it here successfully. Okay, moving forward, what should you do? Because obviously this is a rough situation. No one wants to find themselves in. First of all, as a macro topic, you should probably be saving your data in more than one location. That's the rule of 3, I think, the backup rule of 3. I don't know, something like that. It needs to be in 3 places, or it's nowhere, something like that. Everyone, inevitably, no one takes enough care to back up their files unless they've been radically affected by something going wrong. And that's just true of all of us, because we're all trying to just get work done and not do all this administrative overhead. But because you've gone through all the effort to do this, and you are dealing with this issue, and you don't want to deal with this issue again, I would say it's probably best to have your files in 3 places, and just to protect yourself from this, insulate yourself from this happening again. So a couple of recommendations would be: number 1, go ahead and back up the files that are important to you in a automatic backup format. And I would, just off the top of my head, I don't really know if they're a good one, but I would say that I've used it before for business and personal, is Backblaze, and that will automatically, it's a service that will automatically back up. Sorry, my headset keeps dying. It'll automatically back up files from a directory to an internet database. That way or an internet drive. That way you're able to access them if something were to happen. And the good thing about doing something like this is that they're going to be safe somewhere else, somewhere other than where you live or work. So if your building burned down, or it was flooded, or anything like that, you would still have access to those files because you'd be able to download them again. So something like that service is going to be a good idea. Probably not, that won't really solve your problem of where do you store your files on a day-to-day basis and how do you access them on a day-to-day basis. For that, I would say lots of people in IT would probably tell you that these pre-made NAS storage solutions are just destined for failure or errors or issues. That's probably right. And this one is a doozy and not common for the NAS world, but there's probably some better options for you. What I personally would recommend is something, well, here's what I'm going to do, I think. We're going to set up either a Raspberry Pi or some other small computer, just like a mini computer, that will handle the network access to these drives. And then we're going to have them just in some external enclosures, so they're just normal hard drives. And then we're going to have some other software running, like Carbon Copy Cloner or There's just lots of software out there that that will do this, and it will just mirror, it will back up automatically the data from the one drive to the other. Okay, so you have a copy of, you're accessing all your files from drive 1 via this network computer. And then, and by the way, you could do this on your primary computer. It doesn't need to be like an external third computer in the office. I'm just, if you're using the NAS part of it, you may want a dedicated computer for that. So if that's the case, then maybe that's for you. If not, you could just do this from your primary computer. It's just that that computer needs to be on all the time in order for it to be, those files to be accessible. So it's just something to consider. If it's your primary computer, it might be an issue for that reason. Okay. So to the Raspberry Pi example or some mini computer, if you just have the primary drive networked and everyone's using that drive to store their data, store data on and access data, and then the computer's automatically just making a clone of any of the files that are there, any changes that are made to the secondary or tertiary or whatever drive, multiple drives of backup all the time. So you just always have that extra backup. Because the only point of the RAID array, I mean, the primary point of the RAID array is that you have redundancy in case one of the drives were to fail, and then theoretically it should be relatively easy to solve the problem where you just go get a new drive, put it in there, it rebuilds the array, copies your files back over, and then you're good. But that process takes a lot of time, and if you're using these files for day-to-day operations, you probably don't want the downtime from waiting on a RAID array to rebuild and go finding a drive that's going to work and getting it ordered in if you're needing to order it. There's all this extra stuff that's going to prevent you from readily using your files in the meantime. So my personal opinion would be stay away from RAID entirely for this process, just to make this as easy as possible. If you're a sophisticated IT person, then get after it. No problem. But this video probably wasn't even, other than like the macro steps, this video isn't even really for you. You probably know your way around RAIDs and are comfortable with that. But if you're not, and even though I am, I still don't want to use a RAID array. I still want to say, let's read and write to a primary drive. We'll make constant, not even daily, just like as files change on that primary drive, we'll just also write them to the secondary drive using some software that's just automatically copying it to the secondary drive. That's what we're going to do. That's what I would probably recommend, because number one, you're not beholden to a server to authenticate your permission to access these files. So that's one. If the mini computer that you've been using to access these files were to die, and which would just effectively be the similar situation as this hack has produced, which has basically made your enclosure useless, basically, because it's using that network layer before you can get to your files. So if that little mini computer you're using dies, you just take the drives out and plug them into your computer or to any other computer, and you still have access to your files. So that's the number one reason to do it this way. The secondary reason would be that if your drive fails, your primary drive were to fail, and you don't have access to your files, you actually do, because they're copied to another drive that you can also just unplug and plug back in to a computer. And in fact, you could, on your, the mini computer, you can just say stop sharing this drive to the network and use this backup drive instead that you've been conveniently copying all your files to. and then in your own time, you're not beholden on the drive coming in from Amazon or whatever to set back up your RAID array. In your own time, replace that dead drive with another good one, and then restart the cloning process where you're just making a constant copy of that data. If you combine this solution with the Backblaze option, then now you would have 2 copies of data locally that you will always be able to access, and even if the computer fails that's hosting the files, you can plug that drive into another computer. If the hard drive fails, you can plug in the secondary hard drive to another computer. And if all of that were to fail, you still have access to a copy of that in Backblaze or some other network backup interface. That's going to be our solution. That's what I would recommend to be your solution to this problem, to protect yourself from this happening again. If a lot of that sounds just too difficult, and you're like, yeah, but I need basically the same thing that I had, but something that's not going to lock me out if the parent company gets hacked. I am sympathetic to that opinion, and I understand why you would suggest that. In that case, I would recommend do some YouTube searches for the best, safest, or user-friendly, etc. NAS storage solution, and see what you can find. I don't have any recommendations off the top of my head because I don't really use them, and I certainly wouldn't recommend the MyCloud system because even after this is done, I doubt that Western Digital is just going to scrap the way that they do their network drive process, and they're going to still use this authentication method, and it's still going to be at risk of a hack like it was this time, and I just feel like that's completely unacceptable. So we're going to go somewhere else. But if you have to, then I'm sure that someone out there makes a really good network drive solution. And in particular, I would look for one that has direct access enabled, where you don't have to use the network in order to directly access your files, that you could actually plug in a USB cable from the hard drive to your computer if you had to, if the network's out, etc., in order to access your files. Which that should have been on this should have been on this product, should be on all those products as a fail-safe. But it wasn't, so you know, it is what it is. That's what I would recommend if you're going to go that route. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. I'm really sorry that it was long and rambly. I'll try to edit it, but mostly I want it to get out there so that people can see it and get access to this information, so that if you're waiting on Western Digital to give you your files back, you don't have to wait any longer. You can get to them yourself, hopefully. Best of luck. I'm, again, not really a YouTuber yet, so I will try to respond to the comments and stay apprised of those. But if you have questions for me, feel free to put them there, and if I don't get to them, then I'm sure someone else will answer them that's hopefully more knowledgeable even than I am for this process. Best of luck to you.